All right, teammates, we are back once again. If this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the show. Welcome to the #1 show on innovative teamwork. To my regular listeners, I know it sounds like a broken record when I say this, but I just bring people on that have incredible stories that are here to help you and they just do some absolutely incredible things. Mr. Dr. Noah St. John is a 22-time published author. You heard me right, 22-time published author, the father of the word. And the word that really hit home with me, not affirmations, folks, but afformations. And, he's also the creator of a 7-figure life. I mean, so many things he has going on that I don't want to try to give you too much on the intro. Instead of me doing that, I'll just bring him on. Dr. Noah St. John, welcome to the show, man.
Great to be here. Thanks.
Listen, one of the parts about your story that really resonated with me was back again, like you, I grew up in a suburban area, but I wasn't necessarily rich per se. We weren't poor, but we weren't necessarily rich compared to some of our neighbors and things like that. And my mother would drop me off to the library. She always used to respect the public library in so many ways because me and my sister were growing up. So you have a similar story. You started your love for books when it comes to going to a public library, before Wi-Fi, before all this stuff going on now. So I would love for you to kind of just touch on that a little bit, and then we'll kind of go from there, man.
Yeah. Well, people ask me all the time, how'd you get here? How did you write all these books? And, how'd this journey all begin? And it really began very organically. I grew up poor in a rich neighborhood.
Yes.
And I know that's a total cliche, but it's totally true.
Right.
I grew up in this little town called Kennebunkport, Maine, which is one of the wealthiest communities in New England. But my family was dirt poor. And I mean that literally because we lived at the bottom of a dirt road in a drafty, unfinished house that my parents ended up losing to foreclosure when I was just 15 years old. So from a very young age, I was painfully exposed to the gap, the chasm between the haves and the have-nots. The haves was everyone else in the community. The have-nots was my family. And, you hear motivational speakers or whatever, they'll get on stage and they'll say, well, we were poor, but we were happy. We didn't know we were poor. Well, in my family, we freaking knew we were poor
Right.
because my mother, bless her heart, reminded us every day that we were poor and miserable. So no, it wasn't happy. It sucked. And so I hated being poor. I hated that. I hated that experience of poverty, lack, fear, not enoughness. That's what I grew up with because I saw that right down the street, there's great wealth and abundance. So I said from the time I was a little kid, how the heck do I get from here to there? And of course there was like you said, there's no one to help me. There's no internet back then. So I did the only thing I could think of, which I went to the library. I went to the public library and read every book in the self-help section. I just immersed myself in that literature, read every book. And I really, really tried to make it work. But as hard as I tried, as hard as I worked, I just couldn't seem to get it to work. And so at the age of 25, I was so frustrated. I'd been working so hard for so long with really nothing to show for it. I decided to take my own life at the age of 25. I decided to commit suicide at age 25 now. At the last moment, my life was spared. I didn't know why, but I realized I've got to find, what am I doing on this planet? Why am I here? What is my purpose on the earth? And I didn't know how to answer those questions. So guess what I did? Went back to the library. And this time
when you don't know where to turn, you turn to what you know.
Exactly. And so I went
to pause here because I just got to make sure we shout out moms. I mean, they're hearing you talk about your mom, making me think about my mom and how much she used to tell me, look, son, we grew up poor. She and her brothers grew up, 6 people in 1 bedroom in Trinidad and Tobago, sleeping on the floor. And just that perspective, parents, I want to make sure you guys, as business owners as well, make sure you're telling your staff, telling your kids, telling your young people how you actually grew up so they can appreciate it more. Because just like you said, suicidal thoughts, I'm going back to the things that my mother taught me. And that's a very, very powerful statement that you made. But go ahead. I just want to make sure I made that. I don't want you to brush over that. The listeners don't.
Oh, absolutely. No, very, very important. And, when I had that experience, I went back to the library with every book in the spiritual section to find what is my purpose on the earth. Right. And fast forward 5 years later, in 1997, I had these epiphanies when I realized this is what's missing in all those books that I'd spent all those years and an insane amount of hours reading. And I realized no one was talking about this. So I realized this is my purpose. And I wrote my first book, which was called Permission to Succeed. It was subsequently published by the Chicken Soup for the Soul publisher in 1999. And now, all these years later, I've actually written 25 books. You mentioned 22, it's actually 25 now.
There you go.
And so, yeah, I mean, we've helped our clients add over $3 billion using my methodologies. We've helped business owners and teams, organizations all around the world to add multiple 6, 7, and 8 figures using my methodologies and my strategies. And now we've got a lot of people, a lot of happy people using my work, and it's really, really very gratifying.
Yes, and it's worth mentioning that right now, listeners, you are listening to the only individual that has had all 6 major published books. And if I'm not mistaken, you've done the self-publishing route as well.
Yep.
So you know, when it comes to intellectual property, when it comes to how to put your book out there, I know a lot of you guys struggle with, should you go to traditional route? Should you go to self-publishing route? There's all these questions. There's KDP now. There's a bunch of stuff just out there. But one of them, the main one I want to actually talk to you about, because I was listening to you on Entrepreneurs on Fire, and you were, again, very transparent about some of your downfalls, very transparent about some of the things you've been through. You were actually going through it when the big one hit, AFFORMATIONS. You guys heard me right, AFFORMATIONS. There were things going on in your life, and you asked a question. You teach people to ask a better question. So I'll kind of let you elaborate on that as well.
Everybody who's ever read a self-help book knows what an affirmation is. An affirmation is something that we've all been taught. In fact, as a keynote speaker, I get to speak to teams, organizations, companies all around the world, whether live or virtually. And, companies bring me in all the time, and I talk about this very topic. So I'll say to my audience members, all right, now we all know what an affirmation is. It's a statement of something you want to be true. So everybody, I have my audience members do this. I'll say, everybody, we're going to play a game. I want you to say an affirmation just like they taught us. Everybody say, I am rich. And everybody goes, I am rich. You know what happens next? Everyone starts laughing. And I go, what are you laughing at? And they go, well, I'm not rich. And I say, but you just said you were. And they go, yeah, but I don't believe it. See, now, isn't that the problem with the old method, right? With the old affirmation method that we've all been taught a million times. We say these statements, but we don't believe them, right? So back in 1997, this is one of the epiphanies that I talked about a moment ago. It was actually in the shower. It was the shower that changed everything. And I realized,
I remember you said that, right?
Why are we going around making statements we don't believe when the human mind responds automatically to something even more powerful, the power of questions? And so I said, well, wait a second. If we're saying a statement like, I am rich, and your brain goes, no, you're not, right? And we could say that till the cows come home. We just don't believe it. So I said, well, wait a second. The human mind operates using questions. Why don't we just change it into an empowering question? And I said, well, what would that look like? Instead of saying, I am rich, your brain goes, yeah, right. I said, why am I so rich? Why am I so happy? Why am I enough? When you ask these empowering questions like I teach, this actually changes the embedded presupposition factor of the brain. It changes your questions, change your habits, and that's how you can change your life. And that's how I invented this method that I now call AFFORMATIONS. This is my book from Hay House called the Book of AFFORMATIONS. And for those folks listening, you can go to AFFORMATIONS, AFFORMATIONS, not affirmations. So yes, this is the word that one of the words, this is a word that I invented called AFFORMATIONS. And yes, we have well over 2 million affirmers all around the world, people who absolutely love my methodologies and literally changed their life, made more money, lost weight, quit smoking, overcome addiction, found love. I mean, the point is, wherever you go, there you are. And most people are asking really lousy questions. So following my AFFORMATIONS method, you learn to ask better questions, have better habits, get better results, and that's how you change your life.
Do you have any examples with anybody that has struggled with confidence? Because I can probably hear some people probably listening right now, right, that say like, how am I going to say why am I so rich when they're struggling to get their kids to school? They have this job, they're paycheck to paycheck, to that person who's probably dealing with a lack of confidence and like, look, and I've talked to several people like this, the hell with all that self-help stuff. I'm just trying to make it through the day. How do you say that they are able to put that into practice?
Well, first thing I want to mention is that affirmations are not magic. It's science, right? So And it's not like you ask why, why did I make $1 million tomorrow and $1 million shows up in your bank account? It doesn't work that way. We're still dealing with natural law. The problem is that most people, when you talk to most people, they're asking really lousy questions. Like, why am I so stupid? Why can't I do anything right? Why does nothing ever work out for me? Well, guess what? You ask lousy questions, what do you get? Lousy answers. That creates a lousy life.
Yeah.
So now using my AFFORMATIONS method, we can change the questions and start to change your habits, change your results, and thereby change your life. However, AFFORMATIONS are the foundational power habit. So my entirety of my teaching is called the power habit system. This is what corporations, companies, teams, organizations bring me in to teach. Not only my AFFORMATIONS method, but more importantly, my power habit system, which is an entirety of a system. In fact, I've written a book called Power Habits, and I wrote another book called The Power Habits of Unstoppable Self-Confidence, to your very point. So
exactly,
the point is,
I led right into it. Right. This is all,
exactly.
and by the way, listeners, this is all organic stuff. This isn't me.
Exactly. Yeah. Well,
this is
just go to my website and go to the books, and you'll see all the books that I've written.
And we're going to get into actually how
there you go. You know what I mean? So like that, they're all there. But anyway, my point is that it's the power habit system that really enables people to change life. Let me give you an example. I have a coaching program called the 12-Week Breakthrough, where I help people make more money in just 12 weeks than they did in the previous 12 months while winning their lives back at the same time. And I had one client who came to me. Her name is Tamisa, and she is a self-described seminar junkie. That was her word, because she was going to all these seminars, right? And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. Going to all these seminars, buying all these books.
I'm guilty. I'm sure you're guilty of that too.
Right, exactly. And you listen to all the gurus. They all say the same thing, right? Oh, set your goals and get motivated. Blah, blah, blah. They all say the same thing. It doesn't really work. Anyway, so I said, she decided to hire me. A friend recommended me to her. And in the first 2 weeks of coaching with me, she tripled her investment in 2 weeks. We hadn't even gotten to the money part yet. Now, how is that possible? It's possible because I showed her exactly what they're not teaching us, what they don't tell you, right? In all those seminars, all those gurus. And it is my power habit system, the power habits of unconsciously successful people, what highly successful people do unconsciously that they don't even know they're doing, number one, and therefore, number two, they can never teach you. That is really the essence of what I've been teaching for over 27 years now. And it's one of the reasons why we help people add 7 and 8 figures, to their businesses, to their lives, while actually winning their lives back. It's not about working harder. It's not even about working smarter. It's about doing these habits that highly successful people do unconsciously that they don't even know they're doing and therefore can never teach you.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the word subconsciously, because you're right. Eventually, you got to get to a point where you don't even realize you're doing it, to the point where you forget, and you get around, like, it's almost, you become allergic to average. I like the term allergic to average, folks, because when you see it, you're like, wait, I don't even recognize the whole concept of not wanting to work. I actually just put an article out today that whole 3 month of summer vacation, because I teach, how that ruins students' development, because it's like, where are you going to find a job in which you get a 3 month hiatus from? It just doesn't happen. And you actually mentioned something that I want to make sure we bring up, is the power of systems. All right. It is easy for us to sit here and talk about what we want to do, or I could go and find anybody to say, I want to do this. Implementing a system is where the real challenge comes in. And you have an incredible one. I have a coach myself who, swears by ClickFunnels, and I'd love for you to kind of just talk a little bit about how you created your system and why that system is so important when you're looking to hire a coach. Don't just hire anyone. We just talked. We've been in because of investments we've made on just gurus, but please kind of just speak on the power of systems and how you develop.
Yeah, absolutely. So I realized many, many years ago that one of the reasons that I was not successful was because I didn't have a system, to your exact point. Not only that, it was after I'd spent all that money going to all those gurus and reading all those books and going to all those seminars, they never gave me a step-by-step fill in the blank system, even after spending all that money and an insane amount of time. So that's why I came up with what I call the power habit system. This is another one of my books. I promise I won't hold all 25 books up. I promise I won't.
But it's part of the conversation, again, don't be, and this, actually, again, I'm glad do not be a timid marketer, folks. Be bold. If you're going
to anyway, I just happened to write a book about it. So what do you want? Anyway,
if you're going to put it out there, you want to sell it a lifetime. So do you think?
The reason I wanted to show you this was, see, this is the system. It's right there on page 100 of the Power Habits book. This is the Power Habits system that I've been teaching for over 27 years now, that is responsible for over $3 billion, in people's income. And the point is that it is what highly successful people do unconsciously. Now, let me speak to that for just a second.
Yes.
Whenever we humans want to master a new habit or a new skill, we go through 4 stages of competency. The first stage is unconscious incompetence. That means you don't know, you don't know. The second stage is conscious incompetence. It means you don't know. The third stage is conscious competence, which is you know. And then the final stage is unconscious competence, which is you do without thinking. So in my keynote speeches, when I'm speaking to teams, organizations, corporations, I will often use the example of driving a car, right? Most people know how to drive a car, right? Most people listening to this program, right? They know how to drive a car. But did you know that you had to go through those 4 stages to drive a car? First, you didn't know how to drive a car, right? Nobody comes out of the womb and says, hey, where's my car, right? You don't even know you don't know. Then the second stage is you get to a certain age, you're like, I need to get away from my parents. How do I do that? Oh, shoot, all I have is a bicycle. I want a car. How do you drive a car? Oh, shoot, I don't know how to drive a car. So now you don't know. Then you get to the third stage, you learn how to drive a car, right? And then you remember it was really hard at first, right? It's hard to remember that far back for some of us, but you're like, wow, at the beginning, it's really hard because you don't know what you're doing. And then you finally learn. And then what do? You master it. And now today, for most folks listening to this program, you don't even think about it, right? You literally do it without thinking. Well, it's exactly that way with success. That's one of the things that makes my coaching different is I'm showing you exactly what highly successful people are doing that they don't know they're doing. It's like the bottom part of the iceberg, right? We have the conscious part of the iceberg. That's about the 5%, right? That's the conscious mind. So, you go to all these seminars, they'll say, well, set your goals, work hard, believe in yourself. No kidding. We've heard that a million times. No kidding, right? It's all the underneath part that they don't even know they're doing. And you can interview them all day long. They won't even tell you because they don't realize it. That's why it took me, the nerdiest nerd in the industry. I'm like the Sheldon Cooper of self-help, right? I had to study all these people for years and years and years, boil it down to a system, and that's why anybody can do it.
Yeah, and that is that's a very key point because again, and I have to ask you this because has there been a time where you've turned people away because they're expecting you to kind of be the magic guy? Like they're expecting, hey, I'm going to pay you this and I want this 7 figures and all that. And you're not a magician. You're not going to be the guy that just, waves a magic wand. All of a sudden you're going to get 7 figures when people may assume, hey, because you have this book title, if I pay this guy a certain amount of money and hey, just do it, which again, people who have a budget, I've been in situations like that too, where, hey, here's a couple thousand, you just figure it out. Has there been situations in which you've turned people away? And if so, can you kind of speak to that a little bit if anybody's listening? So that way they know, hey, I got to come with X if I want to. You know what I'm saying?
That's good. Well, we have 3 levels of service that we provide: done for you, done with you, and do it yourself. All right. So the done for you is like, for example, we have a book done for you service. To your point, I've written so many books. I've done everything. I've gotten 6-figure book deals from the largest publishers in the world. I've done self-publishing. I've done it all. And yes, I am the only author in history who's had works published by Hay House, HarperCollins, Simon & Schuster, Mind Valley, Nightingale, Conan, and the Chicken Soup for the Soul publisher. No one else in history has ever done that. I'm the only one. So yes, I'm a category of one.
One who's written. There's a lot of people who've written books, guys. There's Tony Robbins. I mean, there's tons of them.
Yeah, go through the whole list. I'm it. So anyway, my point is that's why people, kept asking me, Noah, can you help me write my book? And I'm like, well, yeah, of course I can. I can, that's why I do. So we have a book done for you service. Just to give you an example, like one of our clients is a stem cell doctor in Nashville. He said, Noah, I've been thinking about writing my book for 10 years. He didn't know where to start. We got it done for him in 8 weeks, right? So when you know what you're doing, when you have a system, boom, you can get it done fast. So that's the done for you. Then we have the done with you, which is like the 12-week breakthrough program I was talking about earlier. So that's where we do it with you. That can be one-on-one, that can be group coaching. And then we have the do it yourself. That can be anything from books to online courses, to videos and things like that. So we have every level of service. Done for you, done with you, and do it yourself. And really, it comes down to time versus money, right? That's what we're always trading. You're always trading one for the other. If you have more money than time, then you probably want to do the done for you. If you want, somewhere in the middle, you want the done with you. If you have more time than money, you want to do the do it yourself. So that's a beautiful thing. And now what's really great is I help my clients put that in place too. And boom, that's one of the things that really helps to accelerate their income very, very quickly.
Yes. And now what's like the next phase for your business? Do you plan on opening up your own school, or do you plan how do you see this thing playing out the next couple of years for you?
Yeah, well, one of the things that we're doing is doing more corporate, right? So I am doing more speaking, more consulting for corporations, for organizations, for teams, not just the United States, but really all around the world. Because quite frankly, every company wants one thing, and that is more productivity, which leads to more profits, right? That's what we all want, right? That's what every company wants. So, well, guess what? That's what I've been doing for over 27 years now, right?
Mhm.
And so, I have programs for entrepreneurs and people with smaller teams, like between 5 and 20 people, and then of course we have licensing for companies that have say 50 to 100 or 1,000 or more. And so companies can actually license my work, meaning that you can have the power habits for your entire organization. You
Wow.
can have, I have a program called Get Unstuck Now for people who want to have more productivity and get unstuck, right? So this
Right.
is exactly what I've been teaching. So yeah, that's the next level for us, and we're very excited because I love seeing the results for my clients. I'd rather brag about my clients than me. When you go to my website, you'll see that there's just hundreds and hundreds of case studies of
Mhm.
individuals, teams, organizations that have gotten incredible results as a result of following my frameworks and just implementing my habits.
Okay, is there and I do want to make sure I ask you this as well. Is there a way that you've had to adjust your business since the influx of social media and since COVID and since everything has gone virtual? Because again, another issue with hard copy books is sometimes it could be challenging to get them sold. I mean, I remember actually hearing you talk about writing the book is actually the easiest part of the entire process, and this is something I've experienced myself.
Definitely.
Writing the book is absolutely therapeutic. Selling the damn book is what causes the problem. So
Oh, absolutely. Well, I was watching an interview with John Grisham recently, and he said the exact same thing. Yeah, writing books is pretty easy. Selling them is hard. I'm like, wow, that's John Grisham talking. So it's like, wow, so yeah, it is. I mean, look, I've been doing this for over a period of 4 decades. I started in the 90s, the
Mhm.
aughts, the tens, and here we are in the 20s. So I've been doing this longer than almost anybody else in the industry. So yeah, I've seen it all and, made every mistake in the book. I've got the arrows in my back to prove it. So the point is that one of the things that I do is help my clients to really shorten their learning curve because I've been doing this for so long and made every mistake that I can tell people, hey, it's like having a Sherpa when you want to climb Mount Everest, right? You want to don't go over there because you can fall and die, right? So don't do that. Go over this way. It's a shortcut. So it's kind of like that. And but yeah, I mean, it's really exciting because when you see the results for people, and people have these amazing messages and great teams, but sometimes they're just stuck in the mud, and it's because everybody's saying the same thing. All the gurus are saying the same thing. Set your goals and think positive and believe in yourself. Okay, we know all that. Why isn't my team producing? Why aren't I getting the results that I want? Why am I working harder and actually making less? So, these are the types of things that, frankly, I've been solving for a long, long time, but it's just really exciting. It's exciting to see people's results. That's what makes me excited.
I feel the energy, man. I'm excited to keep up with your work, man. This is awesome. Please, can you just tell people how they can get in touch with you? What's the best avenue? Where do you send people when they want to get in touch?
Well, just my name is Noah St. John. Just go to my name and Google that or go to noahstjohn.com. You could go to the book section there and just, select any of my books. You can see them all there in the library. By the way, if you want to book a breakthrough call with me or one of my team members, one of my coaches, just go to breakthroughwithnoah.com. Easy to remember. I'm known as the breakthrough coach. So breakthroughwithnoah.com. You can watch some video training there, see, again, some of my amazing results. And these are real people, real stories. That's what I love about it. When you look at the gurus, usually their only success story is themselves. Hey, I made millions of dollars and I made all this money. It's like, well, great. Who cares, right? I don't care about you. I care about me, right? Have you helped anyone else? And usually they don't really talk about that. So I'd rather brag about my clients than me. Yes, I've done well. I mean, duh, of course I've done well, but who cares, right? It's about, have you helped anyone else? So that's why at breakthroughwithnoah.com or noahstjohn.com or even coachingwithnoah.com, you'll see it's all about the results, and that means it's a system and
Yeah.
it's not just about some personality.
Yeah, one of my favorite authors actually is Seth Godin, and he has a
Yes.
great keynote where he says, it's the work that you're after. Chase the work, not the credit, because the work means you're going to be able to do it again and again and again. And that should be your goal, listeners. That should be your goal. Your goal should be to do the work, not necessarily go for the credit. And I know some of that, sometimes that gets a little confusing for you guys. So I want to make sure I make that point as well. So Noah, this has been incredible. And so the final thing I do with all my shows is I want you to use your imagination a little bit. You are, man, growing up as that dirt poor kid, you're struggling, you're seeing seeing your actual classmates come to school with the nicest clothes, has everything that you think you want. I want you to pretend that that young man has clicked into the Zoom room. I know they didn't have Zoom back then, but just pretend he's here. Give that young man some words of encouragement, and we'll officially close.
I would say to that young man, just don't stop. It sucks right now, but it's going to get a lot better. And you're going to end up with a beautiful wife, a beautiful home. You're going to be able to pay off your mortgage 27 years early. That's pretty nice. So just hang in there, man. And there's people that really love you, that believe in you, and that are very, very happy that you are here. And that's the message I would have liked to hear, because back then I didn't think anybody cared. It didn't feel that way at all. So that was why I made that decision back then to take my own life. Thank goodness my life was spared at the last moment. But yeah, it was pretty bleak back then. So yeah, I would definitely have words of encouragement for that young man. And I am glad that I did hang in there. I'm still here, and just get to see a lot of smiling faces every day as a result of what I do. It's a very nice feeling.
Yes, it is. And I'm sure your words were very heartfelt just now. And the young man who is listening, who is going through that, because I know you are, that we're here for you. Like I said at the beginning, we're here for you. And just keep hanging in there. Like you said, just keep hanging in there. Things will get better at one point, at some point. It's all going to make sense. Because again, you just spoke to me as that young man who, again, mom dropped him to the library, the whole nine. So keep doing what you're doing, brother, man. I look forward to keeping up with your work, and, just keep kicking butt, man. Fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.